Hello everyone, my name is Greg Christian. Welcome to the Organic School Project and FWE webinar. We're going to talk about healthy breakfasts made easy. Throughout this webinar, you're welcome to type in questions and we'll get to them when we get them or near the end. So I'm Greg Christian and that's Jerry Herbick. He's on the line too. I started the Organic School Project 6 years ago, just to give you a little background on myself, working in Chicago public schools, trying to help change the way we feed kids in school. I'm a chef of 30 years. I worked on the stoves for 25 years and really want to help change the way we feed kids in school, slowly but surely. Jerry has been working a little bit longer than me in the kitchen. And he was his last job was he was the regional chef for Chartwell's in Chicago Public Schools, and he had that job for 12 years. A little bit more background on the Organic School Project. We live by this grow, teach, feed mantra. So we've put about 10 school gardens into schools, vegetable gardens, and we taught in schools for years. I would drop full-time teachers teaching kids all about food, where it comes from, nutrition, food in their bodies, food and advertising. And then we served over 225,000 healthy meals and snacks in Chicago public school cafeterias. And we evaluated that with doctors. And then what we've recently done is we've written 3 books. We're calling it the Grow, Teach, Feed Collection. So the Grow book tells people how to put gardens in schools and curriculum around a garden. The Teach volume has over 25 lessons, K through 8, first grade through 8, about food and the environment, food and nutrition, food in the body. And then the Feed volume, which you would be most interested in, has over 200 recipes for people that make food in schools. We also teach people how to buy local food in the Feed collection. So today we're going to talk about our current food system and how it impacts our environment and health. And then we're going to touch on why we have to make food better and better in schools. And then we're going to go over some recipes, talk about local food, and answer questions. And at the very end, there's going to be a poll and then a survey. And we'd love you to fill those out. This webinar is going to be available on our website and the FWE website. And if you want these recipes, you can send us an email and we'll get you those recipes. So the first slide has to do with how much our food system uses water. So to me, food isn't just about like how to serve the healthiest food to kids, but it's also converging the narrative of our food system uses a lot of water. So on the planet, of all the water on the planet, only 3% is fresh. Of that fresh, 30% is groundwater. And then of that, 87% are lakes. And I just want to go to the end of this slide and talk about how much water it takes to produce a kilogram of beef, which is 15,000 liters of water. This is in our factory farming, which means that we keep cattle confined and feed them lots of corn. And it may or may not be good for the cattle. It may or may not be good for us, but it's sure using a lot of water, and that is not good for future generations. And our food system is based on oil. And currently we use over 400 gallons of oil per American per year through the food that we eat. And we are halfway done with oil on the planet, and that happened pretty quickly. And so our current food system is based on using a lot of oil, and that won't continue. It can't continue because we're heading towards running out of oil. So besides working on getting local food into the schools, it's going to help use less oil so future generations have oil. And we're part of the use of oil is how we ship food around the world and around the country. And I'm not saying that we should stop using avocados or apples from New Zealand or olive oil from Europe, but it's just nice to know how far this food travels and to consider alternatives. It's kind of hard to replace olive oil, but it's also nice to know. So when I use olive oil now, I know how far it traveled and I use it sparingly if I can. And I don't necessarily buy an avocado or serve avocados every time I feel like it, knowing they come from so far away. And if anyone is interested in more food maps, they can send us an email, and which will be posted at the end, and I can get you more food maps. Another thing we use in our animal husbandry is we use hormones and antibiotics. I am not a doctor and will not tell you that this is bad for us, but I will tell you that in Europe, they're not using these antibiotics and hormones. They're not using these in Japan. And the reason they're not is because they're just not sure if this hurts us or not. And so I think in the near future, we're going to realize that this might not be the best thing for us. This might not be the best thing for kids. And we're going to head towards meat that gets to walk around, using animals that get to walk around and aren't given antibiotics and hormones, or at least a lot of antibiotics and hormones. And on the health side, we're getting bigger. This is from the CDC in '85. You can see, the white states where there's no data, the light blue, that's under 10% were obese. And then as it gets darker, you can see that's the obesity level of those states on average. So in 1990, jumping up to a lot of states at 15 to 19% obese. Now everybody's keeping score by 95, and we're getting darker or bigger. And in 2000, we're heading to that 20 to 24% obesity rate. And in 05, now we're into the 25 to 29%, and a few states, 3 states now, over 30%. And in 08, the last time they've done this. So for a long time, everybody said, well, it's the parent's responsibility. And that's, I'm a parent of 2 kids. They're 18 and 21 now. And I took it seriously. I tried to teach my kids about food. And at the same time, I think there's a lot of parents that either don't know how to do this anymore, feed their kids the best food, don't have grocery stores in their neighborhoods, or for whatever reason. And a lot of your schools, the kids are eating 1 or 2 meals a day, some of that provided by the federal government in free and reduced lunches. So I think the part of the responsibility with helping the kids eat healthy is on our shoulders to try and figure that out even more. My guess is that's why you're on this webinar. So I respect your work a lot, and we're going to jump in now to some recipes. The first one being frittata. There's the nutritionals and the cost proportion. And there's the ingredients that we used. And we listed them out for you. Again, we don't have, we can send you these recipes if you send us an email. We're going to walk you through how we make them. But before we do that, I have Jerry on. We're going to talk about commodity food, because a lot of you have commodities that you get either very inexpensively or for nothing. And so we just want to share with you some other ideas that can go into this frittata besides these ingredients.
Right. Well, for the years, the schools I was with, we did have commodities, and I'm just looking at this recipe to substitute and help your food cost. We could put there's corn, green beans, peas, there's commodity cheese, carrots, even potatoes could go in this. And if you didn't want to keep it meatless, there's cooked ground beef or even ground turkey that could be put in there to stretch the recipe.
And you can also put canned dry beans in there. There's a lot of canned dry beans out there available. And so now we're going to walk you through this recipe. So that's me cracking eggs into a bowl, pouring some milk in, and the rest of the ingredients. Jerry, what could you do? What could you do ahead of time? So the way I'm showing this recipe is like do all this in the morning, but really we know that labor's tight, that these people are busy. What could they do the day before or a couple of days before to make their life easier?
Right. Well, with our production and so forth, just doing it in the morning, that you don't have enough time to do it. So even the bread could be cut the day ahead, or even 3, 4 days ahead. And I use the ends and save the ends, and that helps with your food cost. Broccoli or whatever vegetable you're using could be cut up and blanched. Cheddar cheese, hopefully, it comes in already grated. Eggs could be broken, and the milk and your salt and mustard and hot sauce and paprika could be mixed in together. And in the morning, then you would just have to take 2 minutes. In the morning, you would just take 2 minutes and combine all the ingredients, and then cook them.
And some people out there are using liquid eggs, Jerry. They're just working in big houses. They're easier to use. Was this going to work with liquid eggs?
Yeah, absolutely. They'll come in from commodities. They'll come in 30-pound tubs or 6 5-pound cardboard containers. And if they're defrosted in the refrigerator correctly, they're just handled normally like regular eggs. That's all. The only difference is they're frozen.
Great. So we put everything into the bowl, all those ingredients we talked about. We put that into a greased hotel pan. We used butter, but of course you can use canola oil or any oil you have. And then we put that into the FWE in the retherm. The nice thing about this piece of equipment is it goes up to 350 degrees and it doesn't need an exhaust hood. And the other nice thing I like about this piece of equipment is that you can set it to have 2 temperature settings. So we can cook this at between 325 and 350 for this particular dish 12 to 14 minutes, and then the timer could reduce the temperature down to 165 170 degrees to hold it warm. What we did, since we had the Climate IQ, which is behind me, I cooked this in the retherm, and then I put it in the Climate IQ to hold. And then that's the finished product, which is where I just plated that on a little bit of spinach because I think the more green vegetables we can get into kids' mouths, the better. I realized that the older kids, sometimes it's a struggle, but I tried to make this look good, Jerry. And why do kids eat with their eyes?
Well, that's why I laugh when I hear that, because I know that's the old saying that people eat with their eyes. Well, children are the same. We've done it with recipes like this, or even oatmeal, that if it's just plain and it's up on the cabinet, students walk by. If you put a little garnish and so forth and make it look nice, they'll stop. And that gives you 30 seconds to introduce it to the student, maybe give them a sample, and that helps a lot.
That's great. That's great. Now we're going to move on to the breakfast burrito.